The day my CEO wife's old flame came back to town was the day she started coming home late. I watched it all happen in silence because I wasn't really her husband. I was just the guy Isabella Vance paid $15,000 a month to play the part, and now our contract was about to expire. As a professional, the considerate thing to do was to make a clean exit. No drama for the boss. So, I started handing off my duties and packing my things. The moment the contract ended, I grabbed my suitcase and booked a flight, ready to take a 6-month tour around the world. But something went off script. I opened my eyes and somehow, I was back in the States. And hovering over me was someone who looked an awful lot like Isabella Vance. And she was smiling at me like that. "Wait, stop your hand." I choked out. She just chuckled, her perfume wrapping around me like a wave. Her voice dropped into that husky, dominant murmur. "Hey, husband, you enjoying this? You've got to be kidding me." I stared up at the sky, my handful of resumes crumpled into a damp ball in my fist. Graduation season was a meat grinder and I was getting shredded. Case in point, the job fair I had just gone to. You want to know what the recruiter told me? "Sorry, we're only hiring FADs." I stared at the job description on his poster, stunned. "But you're hiring a security guard to man the front gate. You need a doctorate for that?" The recruiter, a beefy guy with a unibrow, puffed out his chest. "You're young, kid. You don't get it." I leaned in, pretending to be intrigued. "Enlighten me." He beamed with pride, spreading a self-satisfied grin across his face. "This isn't just any gate. This is the security post for a high-tech biotech research facility. This spot," he said, jabbing a thick finger at the poster, "is prime real estate. You're seeing top executives all day long. You gotta have the looks and the brains." I clapped slowly. "Impressive. And you, sir? What's your degree in?" He chuckled. "I dropped out of elementary school." I leaned back, giving him a once-over. The guy wasn't exactly a movie star, but he had a presence: broad forehead, square jaw, a nose like a Roman statue. I gave him a thumbs up. "Incredible. You must have a powerful mentor. Someone brilliant. A real visionary guiding you from behind the scenes." My flattery hit home. He laughed, a booming, self-congratulatory sound. "Haha, you're wrong." "Oh? Then what is it?" He waved me closer, eyes darting like we were exchanging national secrets. I shuffled forward. "It's because my dad's the director of the facility," he whispered proudly. A wave of something washed over me. "Respect? Maybe." I gave him another, more sincere thumbs up. "My apologies. I have to go." I turned and walked off, diving back into the chaos. I found another booth, this one with a long line. I waited my turn. After what felt like forever, "Hi, I think I'm a great fit for this position." I held out my resume. The woman across the table didn't take it. She just kept cracking sunflower seeds between her teeth, spitting the shells into a cup. Maybe she didn't hear me. I tried again. "Hello?" I tapped the table. Tap, tap. She pointed at the job posting on the table. I leaned in to read. Position opening. 1 slot. Requirements as follows: height between 5'5" and 5'6". Weight between 220 and 221 lbs. Must have graduated with a degree in medieval literature. Must have attended North Scranton Middle School and Scranton High. Must currently reside in Scranton, Pennsylvania, specifically in the Green Ridge neighborhood. Due to the unique nature of the position, appearance is critical. See below for reference. A detailed pencil sketch of a very specific-looking man. I finished reading, mouth slightly open. I looked back at the woman. She spit out another shell and gave me a pitying nod, like, "Yeah, you get it. Okay." Message received, but I wasn't giving up. I'm young, in my prime. There had to be something out there for me. Next, I found a booth manned by a kindly older man. The requirements seemed normal. "Hello, sir." He smiled warmly, took my resume and read it carefully. For the first time, I felt a glimmer of hope. He nodded, giving me a look of encouragement. I launched into my well-practiced self-introduction. When I finished, he was beaming. "I've read it all, son. You're an outstanding young man. Exactly the kind of talent we're looking for." "Really?" I said, hopeful. The man nodded kindly. Finally, a real human interaction. This was it. So, I leaned in. "About the salary? Can you accept $4,000 a month?" he asked. I was thrilled. At this point, any job was a win, and $4,000 was more than enough. "Absolutely. I can accept that." I nodded vigorously. The man chuckled and extended a hand. I shook it firmly. A done deal, he said, tidying up his desk with a theatrical sigh of relief. Finally, we found someone. Then, he pulled out his phone and held up a QR code. Great. Go ahead and pay for the first quarter. That'll be $12,000. What? I blinked, pointing at myself. I think you've got the wrong person. He started pulling the phone back, chuckling. I breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, my mistake, he said, smiling. That's my personal account. Here's the company's. He held up a different QR code. I just stared, my finger trembling. Why? Why do I have to pay you? The man looked at me like I was the dumbest person alive. Well, how else would it work? You're new. You don't know anything. We're hiring you, which means we're investing time and money into training you. Who do you think pays for that? It wouldn't be fair for us to cover it, would it? He kept going. Besides, what if you quit and go to another company? Who's going to compensate us for the effort we poured into developing you? He rattled on and on. My head started spinning. So what you're saying, I mumbled, is I come to work for you, and even if you don't pay me, I should be grateful because you've given me an opportunity and invested in me. His face lit up like I'd just discovered fire. That's right. The boy's a quick study. You catch on fast, kid. Get lost. I stormed off, ignoring the sputtering behind me. Treated me like some kind of chump. I couldn't believe it. I'm not done yet. Next, this time, I approached a guy about my age. Sharp suit. Company ID on his lapel. Legit. He took my resume, nodding as he made notes. What school? I blinked. It was right there on the resume. UCLA, I said. He looked up, surprised. Nice. Good school. I smiled. This was it. Thanks. He smiled back and kept reading. Work experience? I had a summer internship at Google, I said. Confidence growing. His brow furrowed. He sighed. Ah, that's a shame. We only hire people with 3 years of work experience. I was floored. I pointed at his banner. But it says you're hiring recent graduates. He nodded. That's right. Being a recent graduate and having 3 years of experience aren't mutually exclusive, are they? I stared at $% and I swear to God one more. Next, hi. Here's my not hiring. I looked up. The recruiter was a stunningly beautiful girl, focused on her perfectly manicured nails. You didn't even look at it. She rolled her eyes and gestured at the poster, seeking female applicants only 18-25, must be gorgeous, have a great figure and a captivating personality. $30,000 a month. Room and board included. No office hours. No professional skills required. Must be able to provide emotional support, be fun, and be open-minded. Job duties: accompany boss on business trips, and when necessary, satisfy the boss's needs. I had no words. I silently stood up and walked away. Okay, I give up. My ego has taken enough damage for one day. I needed to go back to my dorm to lick my wounds. What a total clown show. Dejected, I started walking toward the exit of the job fair. Hey you, wait up. A voice called from behind me, probably not for me, I thought, unless you're calling me handsome. Hey, the handsome guy who looks like he's about to cry. Wait a second. My head snapped around. A sharp, put-together woman with an intelligent air was waving at me. I pointed to myself. She smiled and nodded as I walked over. She snatched the resume from my hand and scanned it, nodding as she read. Yes. Very good. She folded the resume and smiled at me. Congratulations. You're hired. Huh? Just like that? I looked at her suspiciously. I don't have to pay to work here, do I? She chuckled. No, and I don't have to sacrifice my body? She paused for a beat, then laughed. Of course not. I let out a huge sigh of relief. Then I'm in. The woman extended a slender, elegant arm and shook my hand. Welcome aboard. Looking back on it now, I can't help but sigh. I'd been had. Big time. I glanced at the magnificent woman sitting beside me, engrossed in a stack of documents. My boss. I'd been so happy back then. When I arrived at the company headquarters, everything looked so professional. A whole campus of sleek glass buildings filled with people who looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. But then, they led me into a conference room, and it felt like I'd walked into a trap. I half expected to be sold to a scam call center. In another country, slap, a thick file landed on the table in front of me. My heart hammered. Were they going to harvest my kidneys? My corneas? I picked it up and guess what it was? It was a marriage contract. The terms? A sham marriage with the company CEO. My mind went into overdrive, flashing through every wild online romance novel plot I'd ever read. I never thought something like this would happen to me. The woman across from me saw me frozen in place. She said softly, "If there's anything you're not satisfied with, we can negotiate." Satisfied? I grinned like a starving wolf. "I'm very satisfied." I signed my name on the dotted line, 15,000 a month. You'd have to be an idiot not to sign. After I was done, the woman made a copy of the contract, handed one to me, and smiled. "A pleasure doing business with you, Mr. Miller. Pleasure's all mine," I replied, grinning from ear to ear. She gathered her files and gestured for me to follow. "Let me take you to meet our CEO." "What? You're not her?" I guess I was wrong, but not completely. It was a female CEO after all. I wondered what kind she'd be. The Ice Queen? The gentle, warm type? Or I followed the woman down a hall to the CEO's office. She knocked. A cool, crisp voice came from inside. "Enter." Definitely an Ice Queen. We walked in. "Ma'am, he's here. The contract is signed." I saw the back of a woman with long black hair, sitting in a large executive chair. Just the silhouette was intimidating. I hadn't even seen her face, but I could feel the power radiating from her. The chair slowly turned around. I held my breath. "Did you read the contract carefully?" the woman asked, her voice still cool. Her expression was unreadable. I nodded respectfully. "Yes, I did." "No changes?" "No changes. This is your last chance to back out." "I'm not backing out." "Good." She stood up and walked toward me. I watched her, eyes wide, a single drop of sweat forming on my forehead. It wasn't just her aura, it was her face. There was no delicate porcelain skin, no perfectly shaped lips. The right side of her face was covered in what looked like severe burn scars. From her profile, I could tell she might have once been beautiful, but now, to be blunt, she wasn't. But so what? In a way, it was a relief. If she'd been some flawless Ice Queen beauty, I wouldn't have had a clue how to act around her. Phew. I took a deep breath and looked at her. Really looked at her. The more I looked, the more I felt at ease. Her eyes held a hint of surprise. She didn't see a trace of fear or discomfort in my gaze. She wouldn't have been mad if she had. It would have been natural. "Wait a minute. Do you have some kind of thing for scars?" she asked suddenly. I almost choked on my own spit. "My tastes are perfectly normal, ma'am." "Then why aren't you afraid of me?" I waved a hand dismissively. "For $15,000 a month, I'd deal with anything. If you offered me $500,000, I'd marry a rock." Her brow twitched. "Disgusting," she muttered, but the corner of her mouth curved into a smile. She turned away and waved a hand. "All right, go handle the HR paperwork. Starting today, you're my assistant." "Assistant?" I frowned, still not moving. The woman who brought me in nudged me. "Mr. Miller, did you not read the contract carefully? One of the clauses states that you will also serve as the CEO's assistant." "Huh? Look, that contract was as thick as a novel. Who reads the whole thing?" I saw 15,000 a month and signed as fast as I could. Damn it. I should have asked for more. I really got fleeced. "Of course I read it." I lied. "It's just an assistant job. I can handle it." If I lost this gig, what would I do? The memory of my job search sent a shiver down my spine, and so, my life as an assistant began. I looked at the desk set up right next to the CEO's. I swallowed hard. "Here we go. Ethan, this file. Ethan, the board meeting. Ethan, this project needs." I was a spinning top, constantly whipped from one task to the next. One day, I was buried in project reports when Isabella, my CEO boss, put down her pen and just watched me. I'd felt that stare 8,367 times. Over the past few months, I had developed an almost psychic ability to know what she wanted before she said it. "What can I get for you, boss? Coffee run? Project review?" Or I was aiming to be the most low-maintenance employee in history, a job with full benefits, 2 retirement plans, and a monthly salary of 15 grand was not easy to come by. Isabella raised an eyebrow. "None of the above." Damn! My psychic dog in training powers had failed me. Then she pinched the bridge of her nose. "My parents want to bring you home for dinner." Huh? My jaw dropped. Isabella and I had a fake marriage, but on my first day, she dragged me to City Hall to get a real marriage license. I'd asked why we couldn't just fake it. I remembered she'd sighed and said her parents had their ways of finding things out. It made sense. Mr. and Mrs. Vance were clearly not ordinary people. I'd been dreading this day, and now it was here. I let out a breath, stood up, and saluted. No problem, boss. Through hell or high water, your loyal servant is at your command. Her lips twitched. It's not quite that dramatic. I drove slowly, heading toward the address Isabella had given me. We usually stayed in the penthouse condo near the office, but this was my first time going to my in-laws' house. I was nervous. After all, I was a fake. Are you driving a little slow? Isabella asked from the back seat. She was staring out the window as a guy on a rental bike leisurely passed us, shooting us a smug grin. I swallowed. Safety first. Isabella gave me a strange look. You're not nervous, are you, boss? You can't slander my good name like that, I retorted immediately. I'm just a very conscientious driver. She rolled her eyes and looked back out the window. There's a minimum speed limit, you know. You should probably speed up a little. It was an order from the boss, and I had to admit I was going pretty slow. The worst part, that cyclist, high on his victory, was now circling back to pass us again. Unacceptable. My eyes narrowed. I was about to slam on the gas. That guy was not lapping me again. Just as I was about to accelerate, there was a loud clang from outside. I glanced over. The smug cyclist was now a tangled mess of limbs and metal, having crashed spectacularly into a guardrail. The front wheel of his bike was bent like a pretzel. A little farther up, I saw the lamppost he must have hit. As I slowly drove past, I made sure to catch his eye and give him a small, satisfied smile. He watched me go, his face turning beet red. That's what you get for showing off. My mood instantly lifted as I continued driving. Childish, Isabella murmured from the back seat, but I caught a glimpse of her in the rearview mirror. The corner of her mouth was twitching up in the tiniest smile. So, I asked, gripping the steering wheel tightly, my knuckles white, what are your parents like? My dad's into antiques, Isabella said casually. He can spot a fake a mile away. My mom likes, she started to say, but I'd stopped listening. He can spot a fake a mile away. That line got stuck in my head. I wondered if he'd be able to spot a fake son-in-law too. When she finished talking, I asked, should I pick up some gifts? It just feels wrong to show up empty-handed the first time. Isabella shook her head. I already took care of it. They're in the trunk. Oh, you're the best, boss. So thoughtful. I nodded enthusiastically, laying on the praise. Still, when had she even found the time to buy them? We arrived at the Vance estate shortly after. I hadn't even put the car fully in park when I noticed a middle-aged couple standing by the front door. The moment we stepped out, they rushed over to surround me. You must be Ethan. What a handsome young man. These had to be Isabella's parents. I had no idea how to respond. I glanced over at Isabella for help, but she was deliberately looking in another direction. I took a deep breath. Time to turn on the charm, Mr. and Mrs. Vance. I'm so sorry it's taken me this long to visit. Work's been incredibly busy. I forced a polite smile and started laying it on thick, but Mr. and Mrs. Vance weren't the uptight, snobby rich people you see in movies. They were warm, especially Mrs. Vance. She took my hand and gave it a gentle pat. She smiled sweetly. Isabella told us you two are married. What should you be calling us now? I blinked, mouth opening slightly. I looked at Isabella again. She gave me a small nod. I smiled and said, Mom, Dad. Their smiles stretched even wider. They each took one of my arms and ushered me inside, leaving Isabella to trail behind and get the gifts from the trunk that didn't sit right with me. I was the employee. I couldn't let the boss do the heavy lifting. What if she held it against me later? I politely excused myself from her parents and rushed outside to grab the bags from Isabella. Mom, Dad, I said, handing them over. Isabella picked these out for you. She knows you've both been dealing with some health stuff. So this one is great for your stomach. You should take it once a day. I explained everything with genuine care and detail. Her parents beamed as they took the gifts. You two are so thoughtful. They led us to the living room and we settled on the couch to chat. Before long, a family photo album made its appearance. Look here, her mom said. This is Isabella when she was 3, running around naked. She was so cute. And this one, she added, turning the page, crying on her first day of kindergarten. Look at that snot bubble. Her mom was lost in nostalgia, holding the album with a tender expression. Mom, what are you doing? Isabella reached over, red in the face, trying to snatch the album away, but her mom dodged her like a pro. What's the big deal? Your husband can see. It's not like you to haven't seen each other naked. Mom, Isabella shouted, mortified. Then shot me a withering glare. I quickly looked away from the drama though. I had already seen the photo. What a cute little kid. Her mom scooted past Isabella and plopped down next to me, flipping page after page and showing off one embarrassing photo after another. As I watched Isabella grow up through the pictures, becoming more and more beautiful with each passing year, a pang tugged at my chest. Life could be cruel sometimes, especially now. Isabella often wore a mask and hat when we went out. Even if she didn't care much about her appearance, it was impossible to ignore the stares from strangers. I flipped another page and noticed a handsome, slightly effeminate guy with short hair appearing in some of the later photos, always next to Isabella. He wore a mask too, and in many of the pictures, they were striking cool poses together. "Who's this?" I asked softly. Her mom glanced at Isabella, then chuckled. "Oh, that's Isabella's best friend." I nodded. That tracked. A lot of girls had guy best friends. And in every online romance novel, the female CEO always had some unattainable love from the past, the one who got away. Maybe this guy was hers. When dinner time rolled around, I saw my opportunity to make a good impression. Isabella would have to give me a raise after this. "Mom, you go rest. Let me show you what I can do in the kitchen," I said, gently guiding her toward the couch. "Oh, but you can't do it all by yourself. Let me help." No, I've got this," I insisted with a smile. When she saw I was serious, she suddenly turned toward Isabella, who was casually scrolling on her phone. "Isabella, go help Ethan." Isabella's eyes widened. She glared at me, but her mom lightly smacked her on the head. "What? You're going to threaten your husband right in front of me?" "Go." Defeated, Isabella had no choice but to follow me into the kitchen. I glanced at her standing there, clearly lost, and felt a headache coming on. This felt wrong. The boss helping me cook? This had to be insubordination. Boss." Isabella shot me a warning look, then subtly tilted her head toward the living room. "Right, honey," I corrected quickly. "Why don't you help me with the prep? Wash the vegetables, boil some water." "That's it," she snorted. "Are you underestimating me? So difficult." I forced a smile. "Of course not. Those are the most important steps. Without clean vegetables and hot water, I can't cook anything." She was quiet for a moment. I thought she might give in, but then she looked up at me and said, "Teach me." I blinked. "You want to learn?" "You don't have to." "I want to learn." "You could just." "I want to learn." "All right." I sighed and started teaching her step by step. "Let's start with chopping. Watch closely." I demonstrated, but when she tried, it was chaos. Everyone has their strengths, I guess. After a few tries, she stared down at her mangled vegetables, then looked over at my neatly diced ones and pouted. "Show me." Hand over hand. Huh? The CEO had to win, even in this. "All right." "Excuse me," I said, stepping behind her. My arms circled around hers, guiding her hands with mine on the knife. This felt a little close. I could smell her shampoo. I shook my head slightly to clear it. "Okay, let's begin." Maybe it was my teaching, or maybe she was just a quick learner. Either way, she improved fast. Together, we managed to cook a full meal. Haha, I can't believe I'm finally eating a meal my daughter cooked, her dad said, laughing. "I've cooked for you before," Isabella grumbled. "You call that food?" Her parents were clearly having a great time. Isabella? Not so much. She just sulked, but overall, the atmosphere at dinner was warm and relaxed. After eating and chatting a bit more, we had to leave for something urgent at the office. "Come home often." Her mom called from the doorway. "We will whenever we have time." I smiled and waved, urging them to go back inside. We had a lot to handle at work. A major project was waiting. The ride back was quiet. My thoughts drifted back to the visit. After all my years reading trashy romance novellas, I made a bold but pretty reasonable guess. That guy in the photo was probably Isabella's one that got away. For some reason, he'd left her life, and her parents had pressured her to settle down, and by some dumb stroke of luck, I'd gotten picked to play the fake husband. Probably because I'm just that handsome. I chuckled softly to myself. I glanced at Isabella in the rearview mirror. She was staring out the window, chin propped on her hand, eyes half closed. "Boss," I said gently. She looked up, her expression sleepy and relaxed. "What is it?" I smiled. "I saw your old photos today. You were always so brilliant even as a kid. All those awards." "Stop sucking up. Get to the point." Her voice was drowsy, but her words were sharp as ever. I swallowed. "I saw the guy standing next to you in one of the photos. He seemed pretty extraordinary. I bet you liked him a lot. He must have meant a lot to you, right?" She hummed in response. I looked in the mirror again. She had fallen asleep. Her head rested against the back of the seat. I drove on in silence, but inside, fireworks were going off. I knew it. My guess was spot on. Now I knew exactly how the rest of this story was going to unfold. Wow, those novels really are based on real life. Except, well, real life is 100 times more insane. Work, meanwhile, was a whirlwind. I was drowning at first with no real experience, but thankfully Isabella was patient. She gave me time to learn, and at least she wasn't charging me for the training. Every time I saw that direct deposit hit my account, a fresh wave of motivation surged through me. According to that recruiter's logic, I was getting paid and gaining experience. I had to give it my all, and Isabella was actually a good boss. The bonuses from the projects I worked on were enough to make my head spin. I felt like I learned more in a single week here than in all 7 years of college. My master's program. Supervisors were slave drivers, treating us students like, well, something you scrape off the bottom of your shoe. You'll be presenting the project update at the meeting later, Isabella said, glancing over at me. Make sure you do a good job. Got it. I organized my files, double-checked every data point, and made sure everything was perfect. Soon, the meeting began. The conference room was filled with department heads. I took a deep breath and launched into my presentation. This project focuses on the meeting was a success. My proposal was approved. You did a great job in there, Isabella said later, once we were back in her office. She was leaning back in her chair, massaging her temples, but she looked pleased. I smiled, turning on the charm. It's all thanks to your excellent leadership. Flatterer, she said, smirking slightly. Then her brow furrowed. Do you not own any other clothes? I looked down at myself. My clothes were clean and neat. I do. Then why have you worn that same shirt twice this week? She asked, genuinely curious. I sighed internally. Rich people, they probably wear something new every day and never repeat outfits. I forced a smile. I'm not really that into fashion. We're going clothes shopping this weekend. The week flew by in a blur of work. I got used to the rhythm and started to feel confident. On Saturday, I got up early and made breakfast. When Isabella came out of her room, still looking sleepy, she paused when she saw me. Morning, boss. I gave a chipper greeting. She stared for a moment before giving a slight nod. Breakfast is ready. Come eat after you wash up. This is how you earn brownie points with your boss. A happy boss is a generous boss. Maybe my salary would start climbing. Wait, a thought hit me like a truck. No, the online novels were clear about this. When the contract husband cooks, it doesn't win the CEO's affection. It just makes her hate him more. Critical error, but I couldn't throw the food away now. I could feel Isabella watching me, so I had to switch gears fast. Boss, you look even more beautiful today. The scars on your face seem to be fading. The second the words left my mouth, I wanted to slap myself. What kind of backhanded compliment was that? I looked up at Isabella, ready to backtrack. Slam, the door to her bedroom shut loudly. Oh God, did I just make her mad? Am I going to get fired? Panicking, I mentally scrambled to remember whether the contract mentioned severance pay. A while later, Isabella re-emerged fully dressed and ready to go. We used separate rooms. She had the master bedroom and I had the guest room. Both had their own bathrooms, so thank God, no awkward encounters. Thank you, she said softly as she sat down at the table and started eating. Phew, my panic vanished instantly. If you could just add a little something to my paycheck, that'd be great. After we finished eating and cleaned up, we headed out. Isabella wore a mask and a hat, completely hiding her face. The mall wasn't far, so we drove over and began wandering around. Try this on, Isabella said, pointing at a casual outfit. I looked at it. The design was simple, but the fabric felt incredible, and it looked good too. Then I peeked at the price tag. With a design this simple, the price must be just as lovely, right? Thump! My heart skipped a beat. Holy hell! This thing was expensive. I slowly released the shirt, smoothed out the wrinkle I'd made, and carefully pulled my hand away. Boss, maybe we should look somewhere else. Try it on. I'm paying. Her tone left no room for argument. I frowned, sniffing as if offended. I was a man of pride and dignity. Could I really accept this kind of handout? You got it, I said with a grin, grabbing the clothes and heading for the fitting room. A few moments later, I stepped out. It suits you, Isabella said, stroking her chin as she examined me. That's because you have great taste, boss. Another compliment, but this time, she frowned. Try on another one. Huh? Was this one not good? She went off and grabbed another outfit. Try this. I sighed and went back in. When I came out again, she nodded. Yes, that looks very good. That's because, boss, next one. Huh? This went on for an hour. I was starting to get tired of changing, but finally, she nodded with satisfaction. This one is great, she said. I let out a breath of relief. Okay, so we'll get this. We'll take all of these, she said to the sales associate, gesturing to the mountain of clothes I had tried on. Huh? I stood there stunned as Isabella bought every single one. What a baller! I happily carried the shopping bags, trailing behind her until we stopped in front of a high-end men's suit shop. She turned and looked me up and down. Come in. Huh? Little while later, a tailor was taking my measurements with a soft tape measure. He smiled at Isabella. Your husband has one of the best physiques I've ever had the pleasure of measuring. I froze, about to correct him, then paused. Technically, I was her husband, even if it was fake. And how would I even explain this? Oh, she's just my boss buying me clothes. We're totally just friends. Yeah, who would believe that? I glanced over at Isabella. Was it my imagination, or was there a flicker of a smile in her eyes? Had to be my imagination. That woman had such beautiful eyes. She could probably look at a dog with deep affection. After selecting the fabric and style, we left the shop. The suit would take some time to be made. The whole excursion had been exhausting. We found a cafe to sit and rest for a while. We ordered some pastries and 2 coffees, then sat in peaceful silence, listening to the music. After a while, nature called. I hadn't used the restroom all morning, and the combination of coffee and strong air conditioning was not helping. The cafe didn't have a restroom, so I had to use the public one in the mall. I let Isabella know and hurried off. After a few wrong turns, I finally found it. Relieved, I felt much better. I needed to hurry back. It didn't feel right leaving my boss alone too long, but when I returned, my face darkened instantly. Standing next to Isabella were 2 flashy-looking guys with ridiculous hairstyles. Total sleazebags. Were they asking for directions? Hitting on her? I hurried over, but then I heard what they were saying. Wow. From the back, I thought you were a real beauty. But from the front, yikes. You scared me. If you look like that, you shouldn't even leave the house. Ugly. Yeah, seriously disgusting. You probably did something terrible to have someone ruin your face like that. What bad luck to even see you. The 2 of them laughed, and it looked like they were about to get physical. I saw red. I might be a fake husband, but I was still her husband, and they were insulting my wife. This I could not tolerate. Get the hell away from her. I launched a kick, sending one of them sprawling. I grabbed the other by the collar and slapped him hard across the face multiple times. Her face is none of your damn business. You 2 look like science experiments gone wrong, and you've got the nerve to talk about her? Go look in a mirror. When your mom gave birth, did she raise the afterbirth instead of you? I've seen toilets in a bathroom, but I've never seen one with a mouth like yours. I looked over and saw Isabella quickly wiping her mouth, trying hard to stifle a laugh. I sighed and turned back toward the 2 jerks only to find they'd run away. That was weird. According to the usual script, we should have fought a bit more. Maybe traded some more insults. Oh, well, good riddance. I looked around the cafe. Thankfully, we were the only customers left. But why did the barista look so calm? I stroked my chin. People in big cities must be used to seeing crazy things like this. I turned back to Isabella. She had already put her mask back on. A sudden surge of anger flared up inside me, not at her, but at anyone who judged someone based on how they looked. No one chooses to be unattractive. That's not something anyone has control over. And the people who use it to insult others, they're the worst kind of trash. The thought only made my anger rise. Without saying another word, I grabbed her hand and pulled her out of the cafe. What are you? Just come with me, I said firmly. 7, she mumbled, completely bewildered as I dragged her through the mall. We stopped in front of a women's clothing store. I pulled her inside and gently placed my hands on her shoulders, looking her straight in the eye. Boss, don't listen to those idiots. You are who you are. That scar doesn't define you. You should eat what you want, drink what you want, and wear whatever beautiful clothes you want. To me, you're the most beautiful person here. The words tumbled out of me without pause. Isabella just stared, wide-eyed. Then, slowly, her eyes narrowed into a smile. Of course I don't care, she said. Why would I let people like that affect me? Good. That's what I want to hear. I grabbed a few dresses I had spotted earlier and handed them to her. Isabella usually wore dark, cool-toned clothes. I'd never seen her in anything warm or bright. I figured it was probably because of the scar. Go on, boss. Try them on. She blinked, glancing down at the clothes in her hands like she wanted to say something. Then, a sales associate appeared out of nowhere and said, "Oh, those would look wonderful on you. Your husband has excellent taste." Isabella's eyes blinked again rapidly this time. I didn't think much of it. I just gently pushed her toward the fitting room. She didn't resist. She couldn't have even if she wanted to. She was no match for my strength. Once she was inside, I waited outside, continuing to pick out more clothes with the help of the sales associate. A few minutes passed. Is this a little weird? Isabella stepped out, fidgeting with the hem of a dress, looking a little embarrassed. I don't think it suits me. I just stared. She looked incredible, the Ice Queen CEO in an adorable sundress. The contrast was unbelievable. No, it looks amazing on you, I said, giving her a big thumbs up and showering her with compliments. Really? She asked, still looking at me with some doubt. I nodded emphatically. Absolutely. If you don't believe me, ask this young lady here. The sales associate smiled and nodded enthusiastically. Yes, it suits you perfectly. Isabella turned to look at her reflection in the mirror. I heard a soft, almost inaudible sigh escape her lips. Okay, well, this one is fine. We should probably go. No way. We're just getting started. I grinned, holding up a few more outfits. And no, I was definitely not just doing this to satisfy some personal fantasy. Definitely not. Isabella gave me a resigned look. After a long session of trying on clothes, we walked out of the store. I walked out with armfuls of shopping bags, pulling Isabella along. I paid for everything, of course. No way I was going to let my boss pay for this. Ethan, where are we? She asked, still looking a little dazed. I turned and smiled. Just trust me, boss. I continued pulling her along. Here it is, I said, stopping in front of another shop and looking up at the sign. Isabella looked at it thoughtfully but said nothing. Just follow me inside. I told her I found the girl who worked there and explained exactly what I wanted. Thank you so much for this, I said to her sincerely. She nodded, then turned to Isabella and smiled. Leave it to me. She led the still confused Isabella to a chair, sat her down, and gently removed her mask to examine her face. Wow, you're a beauty, but this part here looks. Isabella grabbed her hand, but the girl just smiled warmly and picked up her brushes and tools. All right, let's get started. I sat in a nearby chair, watching the girl work her magic. Slowly, a new look began to take shape. After what felt like a long time, the girl exclaimed, "Done! It's perfect!" I looked over. Shimmering pale blue crystals glittered across Isabella's cheek, integrated into a stunning, intricate makeup design. It reminded me of the kind of elaborate makeup people wear with traditional historical clothing, delicate patterns around the eyes. It didn't try to hide the scar. It embraced it. It turned it into art. It's beautiful, I said, genuinely impressed. Isabella looked a little uncomfortable, but she murmured her thanks. Thank you. After that, I insisted we get a bunch of photos taken. A moment like this had to be captured. The whole day flew by. That night, I collapsed into bed, completely satisfied. But as soon as I closed my eyes, they snapped back open. Wait, was I way too out of line today? A jolt of fear shot through me. Am I going to get fired tomorrow? Just for stepping into the office with my left foot first? I spent the entire night worrying. The next morning, when Isabella came out of her room, I greeted her nervously. Morning, boss. She simply nodded. Good morning. She didn't seem any different. I finally relaxed. That was a close call. I really went overboard yesterday. Time for work. And so the days passed. Life became a blur of work, but I was starting to get the hang of it. Hey, Ethan. Still here? A colleague asked as I was grabbing coffee from the break room. Just a few more things to wrap up, I replied. You could stay and help me, he laughed. Ha, I've got plans. I'm out of here. You should get some rest too, Ethan. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. He waved and left. I checked the time, 1:48 a.m. It really was late. I stretched and carried my coffee with me to check on Isabella. Boss, I'm coming in, I said, knocking and gently pushing her office door open. Boss, do you want coffee? Boss. She was hunched over her desk, a look of agony twisting her face. Her hands were clutched around her stomach. I rushed over. This had to be her stomach again. It had happened a few times before. Boss, did you take your medicine? She looked up at me, her eyes hazy from the pain. I did, but it's not helping, she said weakly. I didn't even think. Excuse me. I scooped her up into my arms. She gasped softly. We need to get you to a doctor now. No more words. I bolted toward the parking garage. Then cursed when I remembered my car was still in the shop after getting rear-ended. I opened the Uber app, nothing available. I pulled up a map on my phone and sighed, then looked down at Isabella and set her down gently. Boss, just hang in there. I crouched down and motioned for her to get on my back. She was so out of it from the pain that it took some effort, but eventually she settled in. Thankfully, the hospital wasn't far. After about 15 minutes of jogging, we made it. The doctor said it was acute gastritis, a pretty severe case. If we had waited any longer, it could have perforated her stomach. I watched her lying in the hospital bed and in her arm, her face pale. I sighed. The woman was a workaholic. I had told her so many times to eat properly, but she never listened. Skipping meals, eating at weird hours. Now, she was paying the price. I sat at her side, staring out at the soft yellow glow of the streetlights as my mind drifted at some point. I fell asleep, my head resting against the edge of her bed. When I blinked awake, my neck stiff and my bladder about to burst, I found myself staring into a pair of bright eyes. Go sleep on the bed, Isabella said gently. Her face was still pale, but she looked a lot better. I nodded and moved to the small foldable cot in the corner. Lying down, I got comfortable. The room was quiet. Dim light from the window cast a soft glow across everything. Occasionally, I could hear the faint sounds of doctors and nurses rushing by in the hallway. Thank you, Isabella said suddenly, her voice soft. I looked over. She was lying on her back, staring at the ceiling. The moonlight cast a silvery glow on her skin. Her scars looked fainter somehow. It's nothing, I said, pulling my jacket over myself, trying to make sure my stomach was covered. We fell into silence again. Then, at the same time, we both started to say something. You go first, Isabella said. I hesitated, feeling awkward. I'm just going to go to the bathroom. I didn't wait for her reply. I bolted for the door. Isabella was focused on a document. Just leave it there. I'll eat in a bit, she said without even looking up, but I didn't move. Eventually, she lifted her head and saw me still standing there, holding the food. A big grin plastered across my face. Fine, I'll eat. Excellent, I beamed, stepping forward to present the meal like a proud chef. Behold, today's specials. Sweet and sour ribs, chicken and mushroom stew, and garlic butter shrimp. Isabella looked over the spread with a weary sigh. I'm not a pig, Ethan. This is too much. The more, the merrier. They're all small portions, it's not that much, I replied, smiling. All right. She lowered her head and started eating. A little while later, as I was cleaning up, my phone buzzed. Venmo, you received 100. I looked at Isabella, stunned. For your cooking services, she said, her eyes already back on her files. I rushed to her side, my voice full of emotion. Boss, your health is the company's most valuable asset. It's my duty to do this. Just take it. You got it. I grinned, happily accepting the money. I mean, the boss insisted, how could I refuse? Well, I'll let you get back to work. See you later. I closed the door softly behind me, completely missing the faint smile playing on Isabella's lips. I was too busy basking in the joy of making money. I started thinking, what other ways could I get money out of my boss? I pulled out a small notebook and checked off an item, culinary services. Okay, what's next? The money-loving Ethan fell deep in thought. We need to ensure the quality of all these products. No cutting corners, Isabella said firmly. We were at one of the company's factories, inspecting the production line. The factory manager, who was accompanying us, smiled obsequiously. Of course. We have a very strict quality control process. There will be absolutely no defective products. Isabella nodded. Good. You can go back to what you were doing. The manager's smile faltered for a second, but he quickly recovered and left. You can't trust everything they say. We need to see for ourselves, she said, leading me through the facility. Eventually, we ended up at the warehouse where the finished goods were stored. We pushed open the door and went inside to check the inventory. Suddenly, the lights went out and with a loud clang, the warehouse door slammed shut. What the hell? I ran to the door and tried to pull it open, but it wouldn't budge. I think we're locked in, I said, frowning as I looked at Isabella. Her expression was just as grim. This couldn't have been an accident. We had specifically told the staff we'd be coming here. This was deliberate. My phone has no signal. I looked at the screen. No bars. We both knew something was wrong. Sure enough, a moment later, smoke began seeping in from under the door. These people, are they insane? I said. This is taking things a little too far. I immediately pulled Isabella back, looking around for anything that could help us put out a fire if they'd gone this far. The sprinklers were probably disabled, and I was right. The warehouse was full of flammable materials, and the fire spread quickly. But the smoke alarm? Silent, the place filled with thick smoke and the roar of flames. We had to use our clothes to cover our mouths and noses, but it didn't stop the choking. I heard Isabella coughing and saw her looking at me, her brow furrowed. "There's no other way," she said. "Turn around and cover your ears." Huh? Turn around? Okay. I turned and quickly scanned the surroundings, searching for an escape route. Then, behind me, I heard a strange rustling sound. Okay, you can turn back now. Was it the firelight, or was Isabella's face flushed? She handed me a piece of fabric. It was mysteriously damp. "Use this to cover your mouth and nose. Then we'll figure something out." I took it blankly, sniffed it, and looked up at her. "Boss, I think I already found a way out." I pointed to a high window. It was a long shot, but it was all we had. Ignoring Isabella's embarrassed expression, I started stacking boxes to climb up. After a lot of effort, I reached the window and pushed, but it didn't move. It was locked from the outside. We slid to the floor, defeated. As the fire grew, I noticed Isabella's expression start to change. She curled into a ball, muttering to herself, looking almost delirious. "Boss! Boss!" I shouted, but her condition only seemed to worsen. I looked at the massive door and decided to risk it. I'd had practice by now, so hoisting her onto my back was easy. Burning debris fell all around us. I tied the damp cloth around my face and carefully navigated through the flames, enduring the searing heat. Finally, we reached the main door. It was glowing red hot. I was just about to look for something to break it down when suddenly it was thrown open from the outside. "Ma'am, Ethan, are you two okay?" It was the woman who had first hired me. Her face was etched with worry. An angel, and then everything went black. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. "You're awake." The kind recruiter lady had just walked in. I started to sit up, questions tumbling in my head, but she answered them before I could ask. "The CEO is fine. Don't worry." I let out a breath of relief. We talked for a bit, and she told me the cause of the fire. It was arson. A deliberate attack connected to a grudge from over a decade ago. "That's complicated," I said, lying back and staring at the ceiling, my mind drifting. I felt like I'd been in a fire like this before. Thinking about it, I drifted off to sleep. God, I woke with a start from a nightmare. I checked the time, a little after 3 o'clock. It had been over 3 months since the fire. After that, Isabella and I recovered quickly. Our injuries hadn't been too serious. Life returned to normal. Work, home, rinse, repeat. I was thirsty, so I got up to get some water. I noticed Isabella's light was still on, and I could faintly hear her talking. I took a sip. Lately, Isabella had been coming home later and later. I'd subtly asked her mom if the guy from that photo was coming back. Her mom had been thrilled. "Yes." "Oh, that poor boy. It's a shame he and Isabella were apart for so long." That was all the confirmation I needed. She was basically telling me to get lost. I also asked the longtime housekeeper if Isabella had a one that got away. The housekeeper had laughed. "How did you know?" "Oh, that one was so attached to Isabella. They slept in the same bed when they were kids. Grew up together. That moonlight was always licking Isabella's face. They only separated because he had to go abroad." Okay, that sealed it. My deductions were flawless. Which was fine. My 3-year contract was up in a few days anyway. These past 3 years had been exhausting. It was time for a long vacation. You can't earn all the money in the world. After all, I downed the rest of my water and went back to my room. A plan started to form in my mind. On the day Isabella went to the airport to pick up her old flame, I left my resignation letter on her desk. Based on my extensive research, encountering the one that got away never ends well for the placeholder husband. I was in a very awkward position and had no desire to be part of some dramatic confrontation. The best solution? Run. I grabbed my pre-booked ticket and my suitcase and happily flew off. It had always been my dream to travel the world, but I'd never had the money. Now I was free. There was no way her old flame could hunt me down across the globe. I saw the Louvre, the Maldives, and Mount Fuji. I went to Venice, the Swiss Alps, and Yellowstone National Park. After 6 months, I had seen it all. My last stop was Akihabara, the otaku paradise in Tokyo. I went to a maid cafe, bought some anime figurines. I had a blast. After a long day, I was exhausted. I grabbed a bowl of the recommended ramen and headed back to my hotel. That night, in my sleep, I felt a pair of hands exploring my body. It was weird. I was having a nightmare about the girl from The Ring, and it scared me awake, but I couldn't move. My body was pinned down. What is this? I turned my head. This was my hotel room. Was I kidnapped? The Yakuza? Panic hit me. I tried to get a better look at my surroundings when a hand slid up my chest. That's when I realized why. I felt a draft. My shirt was gone. Hey, I tried to speak, then remembered they might not understand English. I was just about to switch to my broken Japanese, then something soft and wet slid across my chest. My eyes darted down and my blood ran cold. The woman on top of me looked familiar. Her boss. I squinted. It was Isabella. Her scars were gone, but she was wearing the same intricate makeup I once took her to get and the same blue sundress I had bought for her. Seeing I was awake, she grinned. "You're up," she said casually, and then pinched me hard. I yelled out, "Boss, how am I?" She shut me up with a kiss. Her mouth crashed down on mine, demanding sweet tasting of candy. It lasted a long time, and when she finally pulled away, I was left panting, staring at her. Her face was flushed, and when she noticed me looking, she glared, annoyed. "Why did you run? Why did you change your number?" she snapped, voice sharp. I let out a forced laugh. "Well, our contract was up, wasn't it? I was just making room for you and your old flame, you know." Haha. The words had barely left my mouth before she kissed me again. A moment later, she pulled back, eyes glistening with tears. "Old flame? What are you talking about?" She looked like she might bite me again, but I managed to twist my body around. There was a click and suddenly, the room flooded with light, and then I saw it. The walls were covered with pictures of me. From when I was 13, all the way to a recent photo of me walking out of an adults-only bookstore in Tokyo. There were pictures of me eating, studying, sleeping, playing basketball with friends, even a few of me heading to the shower. If I ever wrote an autobiography, these would have been very useful. This was stalker level. How did she even get a picture of me using a urinal? Isabella's eyes, full of hearts, stared at the wall of photos. Then she turned to me like a wolf eyeing its prey and licked her lips. "Okay, I think I've seen something I really shouldn't have." Just then bang, the door burst open. "Isabella, I brought you your moonlight." A short-haired girl walked in holding a small white dog. She stopped in her tracks, staring at me on the bed and Isabella on top of me. "My bad. Carry on." She slammed the door shut. That girl. She looked familiar. As I was trying to place her, a jolt of electricity shot through me, not metaphorically, literally. Isabella was holding a small taser. The shock wasn't strong, but it cleared my head instantly. That was the girl from the photo. And the little dog, she called it Moonlight. I felt like the world's biggest idiot. Another zap. I flinched. "Is she pretty?" Isabella asked, narrowing her eyes with jealousy. "You like looking at her that much?" "Haha, of course not." "Good." She hugged me tightly, her voice turning soft, dreamy. "You might not remember, but we met a long time ago. When you were 13. It was just like that fire at the factory. You saved me when I was trapped in a burning warehouse." She gently traced the old scar on my chest. "I think I fell in love with you then," she whispered sweetly, "but the feeling, it was a little intense. I wanted to tie you up and keep you by my side forever." She looked away, embarrassed, but Chloe stopped me. She told me that loving someone doesn't mean imprisoning them, that I had to let you grow up healthy. So I waited and waited. Every night I would use your pictures. Her voice trembled. "I'm such a shameless woman. But then Chloe went abroad and there was no one left to stop me. I was worried I'd scare you away. So I had someone pull you into my company. I thought, if you were my assistant, we could slowly build a relationship." Her eyes glowed, a dangerous red glint in them. "But why did you run?" she asked. "Were you worried about the person in the photo?" She laughed softly. "That was just my best friend Chloe, the one who just came in." I swallowed hard. She licked her lips, smile widening. "Or were you jealous of my moonlight?" Seeing my expression, she giggled. It's all Chloe's fault. She insisted my little white dog, Snowy, needed a proper name like ours. So she named him Moonlight. I thought Snowy was fine, and now it's made my husband misunderstand everything. But it's also my fault for not being clear. Still, you have to take some of the blame, husband. You ran away without asking any questions. Do you have any idea how hard I had to look for you? Her eyes blazed with love-crazed intensity. I'm going to have to punish you properly, she whispered. Then she slid down my body. No, 3 hours later, I began to contemplate the meaning of life. I'd been defiled. I was ruined goods. No one would ever marry me now. Isabella hugged me, then licked her lips. Well, since it's come to this, I'll take responsibility. I'll marry you. Her eyes lit up as she looked down at a certain part of me. Let's go again. 1 month later. It was a beautiful day. I watched Isabella walk down the aisle in her wedding dress, her arm looped around another man's. Tears welled up in my eyes. How did my life turn into this in just 1 month? Ah, the cruel twist of fate. As I sighed, Isabella, now at the altar, turned to look at me, puffed out her cheeks, and yelled, "Hey, the groom over there spacing out. Are you going to come up here or what?" I chuckled and walked over, taking her arm from her father. Her dad looked at me, eyes full of tears. "I'm entrusting Isabella to you," he said. I nodded solemnly. "Don't worry, sir. I'll take good care of her." He nodded back, tears streaming down his face. Isabella and I stood before the officiant, looked into each other's eyes, exchanged rings, and said our vows. That night, Isabella nibbled on my ear and whispered, "If you ever run away again and I catch you, I'll bite it off." A cold shiver ran down my spine. My whole body tensed.